Circuit Rider, Part Number 9. The news of the conversion of John Sweeney at his cabin spread like wildfire. Pleasant Valley and all the surrounding communities were talking about Bobby Jack, the circuit riding preacher, and the conversion of the wild man John Sweeney. Bobby Jack knew he was entering a revival, and he felt like the Lord had sent him to this location to lead it. Large crowds started to migrate to Pleasant Valley to hear Bobby Jack preach. No one had ever seen such a movement as they were seeing. Bobby Jack chose a spot where one of the wagon roads went through Rock Creek, and he was overwhelmed at the number of people who came to that location and wanted to be baptized. John Sweeney and the men who witnessed John's conversion came to Bobby Jack and told him they wanted to build a church where people could gather. Bobby Jack was overjoyed and asked them what it would require to start the building. They told him they had not talked about that. They were going to start on faith, knowing the Lord would make a way. Each time the people gathered to hear Bobby Jack preach, he would search the crowd for Sal. The last time he saw her was the day she passed him in her buggy at the building site. A few times he started to ask someone about her, but he would hesitate because he felt like she would pick the time if she wanted to see him. The ground for the church was chosen, and all the skillful hands of Pleasant Valley, North Carolina, set in to build the church. They wanted it to be a magnificent structure to serve that part of North Carolina. Some of the furnishings they wanted for the church were expensive and available only in some of the larger northern cities. People began to donate, but the donations were falling short of the necessary amount required. Bobby Jack could not relieve his mind of thinking about Sal. He could not figure out why she had not been to any of the services Bobby Jack was conducting. Then one day he could not stand it any longer, and he pulled John Sweeney to one side after the services were ended. He told John how he had met Sal on the road the day of the tornado, and he saw her once at the building site, but had never seen her again. Bobby Jack asked John if she was okay and if he had any information about her. John told Bobby Jack she lived with her grandmother, but she doesn't get out of the house much. The only time people see her is when she is leaving Pleasant Valley in her buggy. Sometimes she is gone several weeks, and then they see her return to her grandmother's house. The only other times they see her is when she brings food and water to the construction crews. John said other than that, I cannot tell you anything about her. Her grandmother lives on that ridge just above the location at Rock Creek where you are baptizing. Bobby Jack knew the location, and had seen the house while conducting those baptismal services. Bobby Jack walked up on the porch and knocked on the door. He was nervous about seeing Sal again. He knew something had happened when he met her the day of the storm. Bobby could never get her out of his mind. The door opened slowly, and an elderly woman was standing in the doorway. Before Bobby could say anything, the elderly lady said, "Hello, Bobby. Sal has told me about you, and what you have accomplished in our community is beyond belief. I am a believer, and you are an answer to my prayers. If you will have a seat on the porch, I will have Sal come out and join you." Sal opened the door and walked out on the porch. She was wearing the same thing as the day Bobby saw her on the road, but today she was not wet, and she did not have a pistol tucked into her leather belt. Her flaming red hair looked like something from a painting. Bobby stood up and took her hand, and he could feel the emotions he felt the day they departed at the crossroads. Bobby started to speak, but Sal placed her finger on his lips and told him to listen to what she had to say. Bobby sat back down, and Sal sat close beside him. Then she began to speak.